The significance of education and music according to Plato. Education, I said, and nurture. If our citizens are well educated and grow into sensible men, they will easily see their way through all these as well as other matters which I omit. Such, for example, as marriage, the possession of women, and the procreation of children, which will all follow the general principle that friends have all things in common, as the proverb says. That will be the best way of settling them. Also, I said, the state, if once started well, moves with accumulating force like a wheel. For good nurture and education implants good constitutions, and these good constitutions take root in a good education, improve more and more, and this improvement affects the breed in man as in other animals. Very possible, he said. Then, to sum up, this is the point to which, above all, the attention of our rulers should be directed, that music and gymnastics be preserved in their original form and no innovation made. They must do their utmost to maintain them intact, and when anyone says that mankind must regard the newest, quote unquote, the newest songs which the singers have, they will be afraid that he may be praising not new songs, but a new kind of song, and this ought not to be praised or conceived to be the meaning of the poet. For any musical innovation is full of danger to the whole state, and ought to be prohibited. So Damon tells me, and I can quite believe him. He says that when modes of music change, the fundamental laws of the state always change with them. Yes, said Adamantus, and you may add my vote to Damon's and yours. Then, I said, our guardians must lay the foundation of their fortress in music? Yes, he said, the lawlessness of which you speak too easily steals in. Yes, I replied, in the form of amusement, and at first sight it appears harmless. Why, yes, he said, and there is no harm were it not that little by little this spirit of license, finding a home, imperceptibly penetrates into manners and customs, whence issuing with greater force, it invades contracts between man, and forms, and from contracts goes on to law and constitutions in utter recklessness, ending at last, Socrates, by an overthrow of all rights, private as well as public. It is true, I said. This is my belief, he replied. Then, as I was saying, our youth should be trained from the first in a stricter system, for if amusement becomes lawless, and the youths themselves become lawless, they can never grow up into well-conducted and virtuous citizens. Very true, he said. And when they have made a good beginning in play, and by the help of music have gained the habit of good order, then this habit of order, in a manner how unlike the lawless play of the others, will accompany them in all their actions, and be a principle of growth to them. And if there be any fallen places in the state, will rise them up again. Very true, he said. Thus educated, they will invent for themselves any lesser rules which their predecessors have altogether neglected. What do you mean? I mean such as these. When the young are to be silent before their elders, how they are to show respect to them by standing and making them sit. What honor is due to parents. What garments or shoes are to be worn, the modes of dressing the hair, deportment and manners in general. Will you agree with me? Yes. But there is, I think, small wisdom in legislating about such matters. I doubt if it is ever done, nor are any precise written enactments about them likely to be lasting. Impossible. It would seem, Adamantus, that the direction in which education starts a man will determine his future life. Does not that always attract like? To be sure, until some one rare and grand result is reached, which may be good and may be the reverse of good. That is not to be, until some one rare and grand result is reached, which may be good and may be the reverse of good. That is not to be denied. And for this reason, I said, I shall not attempt to legislate further about them, naturally enough. I think it's interesting, having read the book Blues People, which is I just say Blues People tracks the exactly what it is, the development of blues in the United States, which then led to the development of jazz, which is considered America's only innovative music, America's true music, and which likewise should be noted is resistant too. The most primary force of resistance to the blues was the Black Christian Church, which at that time was a lot more imposing in the black community, having been weaponized by Northern Presbyterians and what are they called? Evangelicals, Presbyterians, and something else. I forgot what they are, who were trying to who were acting as abolitionists in the interest of the Republic by feeling that they can end slavery by converting black people to slaves to Christianity, and thus ploying on, in one sense, a guilty conscience, or reasserting their argument that because they're Christians now, that they have gained rights of a higher form. But it should be noted that it's still a hot debate. You see it in the movie Ray, that most black people, they strongly and aggressively, and I'm sure if you push the matter, in some cases even violently, will assert that the blues is the child of gospel music. And there's a traumatic interpretation that goes there, just like my mother, who was horrifically beaten for ever, as long as ever lasted in the relationship that she had with my father, in which her pregnancies under those circumstances became monumental events of some kind of divine inspiration, because it's difficult for her to understand and interpret. The reality is that she was raped, but she can't define it that way because of the structure of marriage and the interpretation that no, you can't be raped because he was your husband. Just because he's beating the living shit out of you and throws you down and then proceeds to have sex with you, that the second he penetrates you, it stops being a crime and it just becomes matrimonial conception, But the thing is, in that delusional concept of that the gospel gave birth to the blues, black people are there asserting that the black population, the slave population, was prone to Christianity prior to being proselytized to by the Northern abolitionists, who didn't start doing that until I think about the 1830s or something like that. But before that, it was a God-honest white truth that there ain't no such way a black non-human, even though they were procreating with them, and they didn't procreate with their cows or their donkeys or their pigs. They might have had sex with them, but they didn't procreate with them. But they did procreate with their slaves, while still defining them not human. They had no chance in hell of being Christian. Therefore, there was no. I mean, I understand they wanted to be some kind of spontaneous combustion because that makes it look divine. And in essence, in the whole Stockholm syndrome, it's we're better Christians than you, the Christian society that brought us here. That's fine and dandy. But in reality, the blues was the only thing that they sang, because in the beginning of the fields, when nobody knew how to speak each other's language, the songs that they sang were just tempo for whatever the work was done. And one way it was actually encouraged and enforced by the field master, whoever that may be, as to monitor the rate of progress of the work being done, to ensure consistency or to speed it up or whatever the case may be. And then from those mere what they call howlers developed into an element that was the blues as broken English, because they were never formally trained in English. It was all purely absorbed from And this is where you get this racist connotation that black people are stupid because they don't know how to speak English or whatnot, or their vernacular is so far-fetched. They had to create their own English because no one wanted them to speak English, because no master wanted them communicating with each other so that they could organize and overthrow the structure of slavery. So that even under that context of the development of how they utilize English, it didn't allow for any religious type vocabulary to be injected. And plus, if they were saying anything about Jesus, the people at that time would not, the masters and the field masters and the overseers, the officers of the field would not see that as, oh, look at, they want to be Christian. No, that person would be brutalized and it would be beat out of them. So, you know, one thing too is it also goes to show the big debate about Mos Def has a song about it. Rock and roll is the blues, and it talks about Elvis Presley and Led Zeppelin. There's a lot of stuff about Led Zeppelin plagiarizing the majority of their stuff from earlier works, not all of it black, but also as well as you see it with even if you watch the latest introductory to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, that they have all these rock and roll white people, and then it's been taken a massive struggle to get the black blues players who were the inspiration for all the rock and roll style songs. But this is exactly following Plato's template on the importance of, you know what, you have to, as soon as the blues developed, and there's a global, worldwide, even in the black church, understanding that the blues is not of anything else. It comes from its own. And that, as identified by Plato, and as identified in the mass society of America, in the post-racial America still, in America right now the statistics are that only 2% of the nation identifies with listening to the blues. I got that statistic off of Bar Rescue when he convinced the last blues bar in Las Vegas to change their venue. And I'm sure they're going to make a lot of money now. And the girl was a little heartbroken, and she should have been, because the devil makes deals. But it's very important to understand that as much as indigenous societies and the songs, the same thing as the songs, it's important to realize that one of the great massacres that were set off in the Indian times was when the Indians were on a reservation and they started doing the ghost dance. And the ghost dance was immediately recognized by the cavalry to be a threat. And so they made a prohibition to the ghost dance. And the Indians that continue to do it, and if I'm not mistaken, Crazy Horse is involved in this particular event, were hunted down and basically killed, massacred, for the sole purpose of stopping the dance and the music. And it's the same thing with the way rock and roll, the commercialization of rock and roll to the detriment of blues music, has been used to eviscerate the value of blues in the black community. And gospel is another powerful thing that's been used in order to bastardize the blues and turn it into, you have the most common thing, the blues guy made a deal with the devil, and the gospel people are trying to protect the black community from being taken down that road and trapped into this music. So that's my piece on music, on Plato's